Hello and welcome back to Whiskey Uncorked. My name is Brian, and we are back today with another Scotch whiskey review. This time, we're going to be talking about Glenmorangie once again. We looked at their Quinta Ruban earlier this year. I enjoyed it. Some of you absolutely do not like that one. But we're back on the higher end of their official bottling range, and we are going to be looking at the Signet. Glenmorangie Signet is fairly widely well respected. There's a ton of absolutely glowing reviews out there. You can even say that this bottle does have a bit of a cult following. There have absolutely been people that I've heard do not like this bottle, or at the very least feel that it is very overhyped. My experiences with this bottle have been a little bit mixed, but primarily positive. But let's talk about exactly what this bottle is and what makes it unique. So the Signet is 46% ABV, it is non-chill filtered, it's natural color, and it is non-age statement, which is a bit of a sticking point for some people considering its price. This bottle is listed on Glenmorangie's UK website for £200. They also have a Glenmorangie Signet Reserve Edition, which is listed on that site for £345. But £200, which translates to roughly $250 after tax, is an expensive whiskey, particularly for something with no age statement. But that's where the things that make this bottle a little bit different come into play. So one of the first things that people are going to tell you that sets the Signet apart from really most Scotch whiskeys out there is their use of chocolate malted barley. All this means is that they have roasted the barley similar to a cocoa bean or a coffee bean, giving it a dark roasted color and subsequently giving it coffee and even chocolatey flavors in the resulting spirit. The other aspect to this, and this goes into the non-age stated portion of things, but the other aspect of this that makes it somewhat interesting is that this is reported to have some proportion of very old Glenmorangie in it, and the highest of which I've seen is 35 to 40 years old. Now, undoubtedly, even at £200, which is an expensive bottle, for $250, which is, again, still a very expensive bottle, that's probably a pretty significantly small proportion of what's in here. I've seen others that say that most of the whiskey in here kind of comes out into that 15-year-old range, but that would make that £200 or $250 price point pretty exorbitant for that age statement. In terms of casks, again, it seems to be a bit of a mixture, and this is a batch-made product. There is a date on the bottle, but they are trying to hit a flavor profile, I guess is the best way to put it, but generally this is going to be a combination of ex-bourbon, ex-sherry, and new toasted oak. I think generally what Glenmorangie does is they age their standard 10-year-old stock. Maybe it'd be 12 years old now that they've upped their statement from their age statement on their kind of entry level age stated product up to 12 years from 10 years. But generally they'll age it for 10 years in bourbon casks, and then they will finish it in something else. That's kind of their general MO. And yeah, there's some combination of sherry, bourbon, and again, there is some virgin oak in here as well. This one in particular has a date on it of 22/11/2021. So yes, I have had this bottle on the shelf for a little while. It hasn't been open that long. It's an expensive bottle. I even probably overpaid for it. It was a bit of an impulse buy. Just, I know I wanted one, and then when I saw one, it's not available at every store necessarily, I picked it up. I think it was like almost $260. Immediately saw it for somewhere else, like the next week for $235 or something like that. But you live and you learn, I suppose. So definitely one of the more expensive non-age stated whiskeys on the market, at least in terms of something that is regularly available and not coming from one of the super luxury oriented brands like Dalmore or Macallan. Regardless of how you feel about the non-age statement thing and its price point and all of those things combined, some people really do truly love this whiskey. Other people do not like it at all. And then you get some people that enjoy it, but therefore think that it's pretty overpriced. And my experience with it has been a little bit mixed. I think at first I was definitely just not feeling it, but I have been opening up to it quite a bit lately. And I think that may have something to do with its fairly unique quality both on the nose and on the palate. But without further ado, why don't we actually start nosing and tasting this thing and give it a score? All right, on the nose. So the first thing that always kind of hits me with this is there's like a damp dankness, earthy. It's kind of shocking, even maybe it's just the Glenmorangie and I'm expecting something that's a little bit more straightforward and cleaner. But yeah, there is absolutely some like damp earth and basement going on here. The next thing that you're probably going to notice is that coffee and chocolate quality. I get like fresh ground coffee and like a dark chocolate. It's unmistakable, and that's really the entire point of using the chocolate malt to begin with, so it's not surprising, but you're definitely getting that experience. I think there's some caramel and some orange in here as well. I think the orange fruitiness is fairly light. I'm getting something that probably I would say is more of a plum, and then some like new leather. So overall, this definitely gives me like some old school Scotch vibes, just like the picture in my mind. I'm thinking like smoking jackets, overstuffed leather chairs, like heavily varnished wooden bar, that sort of thing. Not necessarily like that it smells like all of those things, but it just kind of takes my brain to a place like that. Just this real classic, almost stereotypical old school Scotch vision in my mind. I do like the nose quite a bit. It's interesting and it's different, and I think that's really kind of going to be the theme of this whole thing. Is it's just a little bit off the beaten path. It's not super strange or weird, but it definitely isn't just your standard kind of sherried whiskey, even your well-aged sherry whiskey. That kind of damp earthiness that hits your nose first, followed up by these kind of dense fruits and chocolate, coffee. I think even I don't know if it was the Glenmorangie website, but somewhere said tiramisu, and I was like, oh, that's a great way to describe it, especially on the nose and on the palate as well. But it just has like all of those elements to it. But without any further ado, let's see if it still just is kind of strange but intriguing and delicious on the palate. Here we go. Cheers. Yeah, everything translates right to the palate. There's an earthiness to it. You're getting your kind of dark honey, toffee, caramel, sweetness. There's chocolate all the way through. It really kind of turns kind of fudgy on the back of the palate. There's coffee, espresso, and all the things that kind of come with that. There's some fruitiness, but I would say I've gotten little bursts of like stone fruit and things kind of coming through some of the darker flavors at times. I might get that a little bit more on the second sip here as my palate adjusts to it. But just generally speaking, it's got a very nice kind of mouthfeel. It's nice and viscous without being gloopy. It's got a very nice long finish. Not like days and days and days, like maybe if you were just drinking the 35 to 40-year-old portion of this, but yeah, it sticks around pretty nice. It's got a bit of an oiliness to it that kind of clings to your mouth, and just generally pretty tasty. But let's go in for a second sip and see if we can pick out anything else. Thinking about the finish, and there's a lot more of that fruit I was looking for. Definitely a bit of a citrus. I think I said orange on the nose. Definitely got some like orange flavored candy coming through here, giving it a little bit of a brightness, freshness, maybe even a little bit of a citric tang. One thing that I've gotten on the finish, especially once things kind of die down and you're left with that kind of chocolate that leftover chocolate, is to put a more specific word to it, is Tootsie Rolls. It leaves that kind of nougaty chocolate aftertaste in your mouth, and it's actually really pleasant and nice, definitely bringing a bit of that nostalgia, fairly recognizable. Right now, I think the fruit is a little bit more present, definitely getting some more of that orange, thinking like the vitamin C tablet oranges. But in the midst of all of those dark, roasty flavors, you're still getting, like I said, chocolate, and you're definitely getting more of like a really nicely made coffee. Maybe close to espresso, but like a nice pour over coffee or something like that, mocha pot coffee. Something that's bringing a little bit more density and oiliness to the overall experience. Coming off the back of the Tamdhu 15 review that I did not too long ago, this is definitely kind of in that arena of Scotch whiskey that in my mind doesn't get me super excited, although I think the chocolate malt is like impressively unique. Like I just think I just got a burst of the Tootsie Rolls. But yeah, this is the type of whiskey that I don't necessarily think about a lot. That doesn't necessarily get me super excited, but when I sit down and drink it and I have some time to really try to break it down and appreciate it, that's really when I enjoy it. Some whiskeys I enjoy when you can just kind of sip on it and it's just good and you don't have to think about it. A lot of bourbons are like that for me. And then you have the ones that are just bursting with your favorite flavors, and then you have whiskeys like these where at least for myself, I've kind of got to need to shut out the noise and just really pick out the different nuances. And when I'm really focused on it and my palate's in good shape and all that, it can be a ton of fun. And I can see why there's a lot of people out there that think that this whiskey is just phenomenal. The more and more I drink this, the more and more I like it, which is like if I would have reviewed this in the first third of the bottle, I probably wouldn't have gave it a very good score. I mean, it would have been fine, but I definitely didn't get the hype. And I kind of feel like when this bottle is finished, I might even give it a really good score. But it is a unique whiskey. I can definitely see why there's a bit of a split. I definitely think there's more people on the positive side overall, but it's a unique whiskey. It might not be for everyone. There's like a really nice combination of kind of damp earthiness, decadent dessert, and then these kind of ribbons of brightness through some citrus and other fruits that are able to kind of shine through and really just make it an overall really nice experience. I'm still not 100% sold on just how much I love it. I think even at $250 for myself, there's probably a lot of other things that I'm going to explore before I pick up another one of these. So I am going to keep this at a 7 out of 10, which is very good. I definitely considered giving it an 8. I think, generally speaking, it could absolutely deserve an 8 out of 10. But I think for most people, like either if you haven't had this yet, I would definitely probably try your best to sample it before you got one, just to kind of see maybe where your palate is versus what this is doing. And if you like some of these more off the beaten path flavors that come together to make something that's really, really enjoyable. Just so you don't go out there and spend 200 pounds or $250. And again, even here at Total Wine, if I want one of these, for some reason, Total Wine has them for $330, which is the most expensive I've seen them anywhere in the US. So I'm not sure what's up there. Maybe that's what the price is going to, and they just got, they just ran out. They had to order some more, and the new price point is that's where that is at here in the US. However, like I said, the $250 mark is much more in line with what it is currently going for in the UK, provided you don't get the Signet Reserve. I don't know if it's just a higher concentration of the older whiskey. I didn't look into it much because at that price point, I'm not going to buy a bottle of that unless I happen to taste it and feel that it is unbelievable. But yeah, 7 out of 10, very good. Like if you're like, this is a 9 out of 10, you're crazy. I don't blame you, because I can definitely see this just hitting the spot for you. And it is a very interesting whiskey. And I have a feeling that by the end of the bottle, I might bump it up to an 8. But for right now, I do think this is a 7 out of 10. It is very good. And let's talk about value. Value stuff with this one. It's expensive. It's non-age stated. Most people have moved past the non-age statement part issues with Scotch whiskey, but not everyone does, particularly when your price point is getting up over that 200-pound mark, over the $200 mark. People are expecting a little bit more transparency from you. At the end of the day, it costs what it costs, and it tastes like what it tastes like. I don't think this is great value, to be honest. If there is 40-year-old whiskey in here, you can understand the mathematics behind the whole thing. It is unique. It's chocolate malt, which I'm sure adds some additional cost just to get the malted barley, roasted and everything. So to a certain degree, I can kind of understand it. I don't think it's a terrible value given its uniqueness. So I'm more at a try it before you buy for sure. Figure out if you love this style of whiskey or not, and then you'll have to make a decision for yourselves, because you're probably going to have a hard time finding another whiskey like this that has these types of flavor combinations for less than $250 or 200 pounds. So its value is kind of question mark. I will say that it's probably to some degree a below average value. I don't know if you're going to find an experience like this below $250 without just finding some crazy like one-off independent bottling. And even then, because of the chocolate malt and the interesting aging and the swapping of barrels and all the things that go on to make this whiskey, you're going to have a hard time replicating the experience. So value is maybe below average, with the caveat that you're not going to be able to find something that matches the experience very easily. So this was a tough bottle to review, I'm not going to lie. I spent a lot of time just kind of going back and forth. Just, what do I actually think about this whiskey? How much do I like it? And that's what's fun about Scotch whiskey, and it's really just having to sit down in front of a camera, or wanting to sit down in front of a camera and talking about it, that makes it tough. It would just be otherwise a really fun, interesting, and delicious bottle of whiskey that I could just kind of tuck away in my own brain library, and as an experience that I had. But talking about it and trying to recommend it to someone is tough, because this one is a little bit of an oddball. Experienced palates, maybe you'd like this a little bit more. Bourbon drinkers maybe might like it a little bit more, although you'd have to like earthy bourbons, I suppose. Again, it's pretty tough. Try before you buy. But again, if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, especially if I'm just kind of struggling to figure out what the hell I think about a bottle of whiskey, because occasionally I do run into these and still want to do a bit of a review. I didn't want to wait till I was on my last drop, so figure get it out there and let you guys tell me what you think. So yeah, please leave a comment. Are you one of the people that is just obsessed with this whiskey? Have you completely written it off? Are you just not paying the price? All that stuff. But if you made it this far, please leave a like below, as I hope you didn't hate it. And if you're new to the channel, or if you've been putting it off, I really do appreciate hitting the subscribe button below, so you get to see more of me sitting here confused, trying to figure out whiskeys like the Glenmorangie Signet. But until next week, everyone, thank you again so much. Cheers.